Hi, welcome to We Wine Whenever. I'm Wendy.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Lori. Wait. You gotta wait. Just wait one second. Beer. It's my beer
You
pop.
got a beer
Oh,
tonight?
Yeah, it's my beer.
okay.
It's very
I
important
told
that
Wendy
everyone
I
hear
tried
that.
something new tonight. I went to see Tessie Poe at Lavodi's liquor store, and I got uh like a Pinot Grigio Sauvignon Blanc mix wine tonight.
Ooh.
I know.
Is it pink in color?
No, it's white because they're both white. They're very similar grapes. I like the
Oh,
Sauvignon Blanc a little bit more
It's
because it's
drier.
drier. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But this is very good.
interesting.
very nice.
Yeah,
Very
I'll tell you
nice.
something funny later when we stop.
By the way, I'll just mention this now because why not? I mean, we do a pod about wine. Bill
Hmm.
is doing a Costco run next week if we need to
Excellent.
put an order in
Yes.
for our wine and other alcoholic beverages that we
Well,
drink while potting.
there you go.
Yeah, let's have a meeting this week and
Staples.
discuss what we need.
Okay, we'll have to have a business meeting. We'll
The
discuss
business.
our supplies that are needed for our business. And
Yes.
yes, sounds like a
Me.
plan.
Yeah,
But
perfect.
tonight we're going to talk about Matthew Perry and the tragic death and the stuff that has surrounded his death that we've found out since his passing. And
Yeah.
Lori's going to start it off with a little bit of the history of, Matthew Perry's beginnings because she did that research.
Yeah. So, I always, I'm a Friends fanatic. I always watched this. I watched the show all these years and always thought Matthew Perry was funny, but really knew nothing about him. Um, but he was born in 1967 in Massachusetts to John and Suzanne Perry, and they were only married for a little over a year, and then they split. And both of his parents subsequently remarried and had more children with their respective partners. And Perry ended up with 5 siblings, but he was the only child of his mother and father. And something else that I thought was pretty wild is he was a colicky infant. So as an infant, he was prescribed phenobarbital for 30 days when he was only a month old. So
Wow.
back in the day, old school, a lot of times when your kid wouldn't sleep and was colicky, this is something that they would actually do. So,
Wow.
it begs to question if this early introduction to barbiturates led in any way to his later addiction. Um,
Hmm.
so that was,
It's interesting.
Yeah,
yes,
for
to
sure.
say the least. So he grew up in Canada with his mom, and she was a TV anchor and a press secretary for the Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, before moving to California with his father, who was also an actor. And his dad was the face of Old Spice in all their ad campaigns. So he moved to
His
California.
father was also. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Wendy's got friends.
His father was also in one episode of Friends. Remember the episode where
Yes.
Rachel is dating the guy that she was dressing in the department store,
Mm-hmm.
Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Like she had a crush on the guy, and they finally go out on a date, and they go back to his apartment, and his parents come home. The
Okay.
guy who played his father was Matthew Perry's father in real life,
It's funny.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
interesting.
Just to put a
Mm-hmm.
name, face to the.
Yeah. So, kind of as a child, he was kind of shuffled back and forth between both parents, one being in Canada and one being in California. And he even tells a story about how he was put on a plane by himself when he was like 5. Like his feet didn't even touch the floor. He was sitting in the seat like, whoa,
Wow.
what the hell is this? Um, so he was like a latchkey kid. And he said in an interview with, I have to give you the guy's name later on, but he said that he just was always kind of trailing after his mother, wanting her attention, and she was super busy with this super important job and never really kind of had time for him. So
Hmm.
at 14, he drank his first bottle of wine, and he said that he thought this must be the way that normal people feel all the time. That's how he explained it when he got drunk
Mm.
for the first time, like that. And he was actually a nationally ranked tennis player in Canada.
Wow.
And then he appeared in Beverly Hills 90210. And
I remember
then
that.
at 24, he landed his gig with Friends. And this is but he said, like 1 week prior to getting hired, he prayed to God and he asked him to be famous and told God he could do whatever he wanted to in order to be famous. So kind of be careful
Wow.
what you ask for and how you ask for it.
Yeah.
So he was also the last actor to be hired for the series. And it earned him $1 million per episode in seasons 9 and 10. So that's a lot of money. $1
Yeah,
million.
because there's over like 20 episodes in those seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what they were making when they first got cast. Probably next to nothing, right?
I looked it up and I forget what it was, but it was no joke, but it was nothing like, what it ended up to be. And then, you have to add onto that several like millions in endorsements and royalties.
Royalties.
Well, yeah. I mean, God, it's still every day during the day, it's on TBS reruns, and every night it's on Nick at Night.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Yep. So in 2000, while he was still on Friends, he starred in the movie The Whole Nine Yards with Bruce Willis, and he got hurt on the jet ski, and he was prescribed Vicodin. And then he was always drinking, but then, listen to you, Wendy, sipping away.
I have a straw.
Yes.
I have a straw.
Chin chin.
So
I have to be honest, it's actually an espresso martini. It's not even wine.
Good for you.
There you go,
Switching it up a bit.
All right.
So when he was in that jet ski accident, he got prescribed Vicodin, and then his drug addiction kind of spiraled from there. So while he was on set, he would never drink or do drugs, but he continuously came in like with killer hangovers, like to the point where he would be shaking so badly that if he had to go a couple feet, he would have to like hold on to furniture and just like work that into his scene just so that he can get from
Well, that
point
doesn't
A
sound
to
like a
point B.
hangover.
Well, it was.
That sounds like DTs.
Like
Yeah,
withdrawals, yeah.
But what he said was he never actually used during his film
While working.
Yeah. So, he was actually leading an exhausting double life because the secrets that you keep is what kills you. He didn't let anybody know. So at one point he was taking 55 Vicodin a day. It's crazy. A day. And then at other points he was on methadone, Xanax, and a quart of vodka would be like his daily prescription. So it was just crazy.
That's a lot of drugs.
That's a lot of drugs. And he said he would go to open houses on Sundays, real estate open houses. And he would like raid people's medicine cabinets.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. And during one 90-day detox, he had a grand mal seizure and he was down to like 128 pounds. So it's just very sad. In 2018, his digestive system shut down and his colon exploded. And he had to be put on what's called an ECMO machine. I'm not sure what that stands for, but I'm pretty sure that's something like it controls your heart. It has a vent on it. It's like super heavy duty.
Mm-hmm.
And he was given a 2% chance of making it through the night. And then of the of the 5 people that were put on this machine that night, he was the only one to survive in whatever facility he was in. So he was in a coma for 14 days and hospitalized for 5 months. And during that whole time, he was never alone in his room. Never. There's always a medical personnel or a family member in his room. And doctors had to wait a year and a half to even be able to do surgery on him to fix his colon.
Was this after the show wrapped?
I believe.
Yeah, because it was
that
in
was after it.
2018, you said, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So that's way after.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he ended up having 14 surgeries and a bunch of dental surgeries. That's why later on, when you see him in interviews, he's talks kind of funny, almost like slurring a bit, but it's due to his dental procedures that he had to have. And supposedly, he met the ketamine queen, Vaccine. I have her last name right down. It's not in front of me. He met her in a rehab because he was in a rehab with Charlie Sheen's ex-wife, and Charlie Sheen's ex-wife was best friends with one of the people that we'll learn about in a little bit. This guy, his last name was Fleming, and he was the broker for this, this ketamine queen in Hollywood.
So she was the ketamine queen, and she was in the rehab.
Yes.
Was she in the rehab to get people to get drugs?
Probably. Isn't that a great idea?
She certainly wasn't in there to get clean.
No.
Got it.
So
she's in there as a patient, I mean.
She was probably there fishing and gathering clients.
Right. Got it.
Because as we will learn, this is something that's very prevalent in the rehab world. It's not all what cracked up to be. So in all, he was in over 6,000 AA meetings. He was in therapy for 30 years. He was in detox 65 times, and he was in 15 rehabs. So half of his life, he was in treatment or sober living houses.
That's a lot.
That's a lot,
It's
man.
a lot. So in 2022, he wrote a self-help book called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. And he states that he came to realize that addiction is an obsession of your mind, which then becomes progressive in your body. And in an interview that I watched, he quoted from an AA book and said it was a very powerful statement that always stuck with him. And it's this: drinkers think they are drinking to escape, but what they are really doing is trying to get over a disease that they don't know that they have. They have a mental disorder that they don't know that they have. And he also quotes, I think you have to have all your dreams come true to realize that they are the wrong dreams. He said that he always had this emptiness inside him, and he really thought that being a successful actor was just going to, once that happened, it would be all good. And then once it did happen, he was like, no, I'm still miserable. So, which is really very sad. And he said that writing his book was very cathartic, but he said having to read it for an audiobook was excruciating. He said to write the words down was therapeutic, but to have to say them and really know that he was actually talking about himself, he said was very, very difficult. So, so this was the interview that he had, this guy named Tom Power. And Tom Power asked him, how do you want to be remembered? And Perry answered, that I lived well, I loved well, I was a seeker, and always wanted to help people. When I die, I don't want friends to be the first thing that's mentioned. I want it to be my book, which
that's sad.
Very sad and very telling. So during an interview with Diane Sawyer, he was asked, she said, how are we to know when you're in trouble and you're not okay? He said, if I say I'm just going to chill at home alone tonight, or if I ever say I'm cured, that's when you know that there's a problem. So in the end, he grew up wanting to belong and to be noticed due to his lonely childhood, and he struggled and he survived, only to be, in the end, only wanting to help others, but no one ended up helping him, which I think is really
it's very sad.
Very sad. Very sad. Because when you look at the timeline of events, I think one of the most guilty person involved in everything was his PA, his personal assistant.
I did not realize that guy was with him for 25 years.
Yes.
His personal assistant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, if you don't have this guy's best interest, I mean,
Yeah, what a piece of shit.
Hollywood's an evil place, as we're learning.
Yes, it is.
Yes, we are learning that. So the reason we decided to do this podcast is because Lori had seen TMZ was doing a special, like an investigative reporting about his death and kind of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us all watched that, and then Lori did some, additional research to see kind of where he started and how he wound up there. And one of the things we saw in the Harvey Levin TMZ, special was there's this guy, Nick Matthews, who's also a part of this special. He is a CEO of Stillwater Behavioral and Summit Malibu Recovery Centers. And he was a very interesting guy to learn about.
Yeah.
He tells his story, and he had met Matthew Perry before. So that's, he's been in the world and he met Matthew Perry. But by the time this guy was 20, he was strung out all the time and decided he didn't want to live anymore. And one day, and it doesn't happen like this for most people. So he is the exception, not the rule. And he was one of the lucky ones.
Mm-hmm.
He jumped on a plane and went to a recovery center. And that was December 2013. And he's been sober ever since.
Yeah.
So for him to go, decide I need help, go get the help, and for it to work and last is amazing. It's amazing.
That's an anomaly.
And he's a success story. Yes, it is an anomaly. It is. And then he said in the beginning, he would go to 2 to 3 meetings a day, 2 to 3 meetings a day. And he would see, Matthew at meetings, and he kept to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he could see him at the meetings that he was surrounded by enablers, including his personal assistant. The people that were around him wanted to be around him because of who he was.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make him happy, and they wanted to do whatever it is, he wanted. And he said that, there's this secret celebrity drug ring. And I didn't know anything about it. Did you guys know anything about it?
No.
Nope. Not surprised, but no, I did not. But
I'm not surprised either.
Celebrity is not really my circles. How would I know?
No, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I'm in the backwater here.
I mean, we see Kelly Osbourne talk about it, and the things that Kelly Osbourne had to say were shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
Very shocking.
54 years old, drowned in the jacuzzi. But that wasn't the real cause of his death. The real cause of his death was he overdosed. And, I didn't know this until actually he had passed away, is that Keith Morrison is his stepfather.
Right.
The investigative reporter. And, he talked a little bit on the show. And he's done a lot of pieces about, not very informative investigative pieces. And I'm sure he had no idea to the extent of this either, because, when you're hiding something, you're not going to let the people that you love see you this way. You're going to have your staff see you this way.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, he had so many people around him that, like, our kids, if we call our kids, they're going to, well, they might not pick up the phone, but if somebody picks up the phone, it's going to be them.
Right.
If in their world, in their celebrity world, it doesn't, if his mom calls him, it doesn't necessarily have to be him picking up the phone. It could be anybody and be like, oh, he's doing this.
He's indispensable.
Like covering for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So they actually said that when he died, he had the equivalent amount of ketamine in his system required for anesthesia.
Yes. That's what the coroner's report said.
Crazy.
And when they raided the ketamine queen's house, and that's, I think you have that, Lori, how many pounds of drugs she was charged with?
Yeah. I have all that. Because what I did was I made a whole separate notes on all the cast of characters.
Each of the people, yeah.
Each of the people. So that's where I put her info.
Yeah, let me see. Oh, here she is. So she was, I can't pronounce her name, Jasmine Sangha, and she was 41 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She was a dual citizen here and in Great Britain. You said her employment was listed as a chief financial officer of the now closed Studio City salon called Stiletto Nail Bar.
Which I believe was where she just laundered her money.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm sure.
That was just her front.
I'm
that was her front.
Yeah.
So she distributed ketamine and other illegal drugs from her stash house in North Hollywood since at least 2019. The LA Police Department executed search warrants at her house where they found evidence of drug trafficking, including approximately 79 vials of ketamine, which is approximately 1.4 kilograms or 3.1 pounds of orange pills containing methamphetamines, cyclovin mushrooms, cocaine, prescription drugs. Like, she had a whole pharmacy,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
insane.
It is insane.
Insane. And she had previously been arrested in March on a separate federal drug case. So,
For ketamine
she shouldn't have.
distribution.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. She was released from custody with a $100,000 bail that was posted.
And but that was the cause of another man's death, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, exactly. Now she's facing a minimum of 10 years in federal prison and a statutory maximum sentence of life. She's there without bail, which good. I'm glad she's there without bail because
Yeah.
she's certainly a danger to society. And her trial is set for March 4th, 2025. So, there was doctors involved in this also.
Well, you know what? It's that allure of fame and fortune for medical professionals.
Right.
They almost become like side hustlers in legal and illegal drugs, and they market them to the rich and famous who have big pocketbooks. So the doctors start mingling with celebrities. They almost want to become celebrities themselves. And they all hope to become, I think it was Kelly Osbourne that said this, they all want to become like the next doctor du jour, like who is a doctor that you go to for this or that to get a specific drug. And
Yeah, she did say that.
Even the one doctor's secretary was on, right? Or medical assistant, and said she went to a party with him.
Oh, yes. Yep.
With
at some celebrity's house. And they walked into the house, and there was like there were bowls of pills all over the place.
And a candy
And she
dish.
said he basically wanted to go to hobnob with celebrities.
Yes. Because a lot of people in the medical field have really good intentions in their calling to care for patients. But also you have to keep in mind that a lot of doctors are very narcissistic and kind of like low-key sociopaths. It's a very, I know people who have been married to doctors, and can be a very bizarre thing that happens to them. They just
I'm sure it's a pretty big ego
it's like a god,
boost once
it's
you get
like
to
a
put
god
that doctor
complex
in front of your name.
Yeah, it's a god
Yeah,
complex.
definitely.
So
Definitely. So after his death, there was 5 people that were charged. His assistant, Kenneth, I can't pronounce his last name.
I can't read.
It's
Iwamasa?
yeah.
Iwamasa. Yeah. Once you say it a couple times, you get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he took a plea deal to avoid a 15-year sentence. Dr. Mark Chavez also took a plea deal. Dr. I don't know. He pled not guilty.
Placencia. Just Dr. P.
Placencia. Oh, yeah, Dr. P.
But
Okay.
he did not take a plea.
He did not take a plea, and I mean, he probably wasn't offered one. They didn't need
Maybe
to.
the other two gave enough information
they
where they're
didn't-
like,
yeah.
you're going down.
But it's the ketamine queen who's really going down because there's no plea for her either. It's sad because they really all should be held accountable. And like you said, his assistant.
Yeah, I
who
mean, the
took
guy was 60 years old. I mean, come on. It's not like some naive 20-something-year-old who's got this great personal assistant job. He was he was 59 years old. He was previously a PA to Angela Bassett.
Mhm.
And, come on. You really should know better.
Right.
I just think he's a real piece of shit. That's what I think.
Yep.
So Chavez, this Dr. Mark Chavez, he was an ER doctor from San Diego. He's 50. So he's kind of like a hustler. Like, he sold exercise equipment online. He wrote like a self-help book. And he went into business with 2 other doctors, and he opened up this thing called Dreamscape Ketamine and Wellness. So after he had like a dispute with them, he left the practice and he took a supply of ketamine with him. And then he did something really weird. Like, he rented this room in a home in La Jolla and like sold the ketamine out of like this rented room. It's a low budget. And then he obtained more ketamine by submitting fraudulent prescriptions in the name of a former patient. and then purchased more ketamine through a wholesaler, and the guys are still being affiliated with that dreamscape. So it's just crazy town. But that it's the two doctors, Chavez and Placencia, knew each other for like 20 years. So Placencia,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Mhm.
Placencia, I believe it was the one who found out that Perry wanted the ketamine, and then he contacted this Chavez to get it from him. So this Dr. Salvatore Placencia, he was a family and internal medicine doctor in Santa Monica. He's 42. And during the pandemic, he opened a telehealth company. And so he's been charged and arrested with 1 count conspiracy to distribute ketamine, 7 counts of distribution of ketamine, 2 counts of altering and falsifying documents or records relating to the investigation. And he faces a maximum sentence of 120 years in federal prison. Isn't that crazy?
I wonder if he's the doctor that said that Matthew Perry was a moron.
Yeah.
'Cause
Let's
one
see
of
how
them-
much
I
we can
believe
get
that
this
was
moron
I
to
believe
pay.
that was him. I believe
I
that
hope
was,
so. I hope it's
so too.
yeah. Because it is
So-
it's egregious, like to say something like that. I mean, this is a human being.
Mhm.
And you're a medical professional. You know what this can do. You
Yeah.
know what this can do to somebody.
But the best is he posted bail of $100,000, but he is still practicing medicine in Calabasas. In Calabasas, he has an urgent care facility. So he did not lose his medical license, but he cannot prescribe controlled substances. Is that crazy?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he can't get it and give it to people. How about when Kelly Osbourne said, when I always forget his name, the TMZ guy, Rick Levin?
Harvey Levin.
Harvey Levin.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Kelly Dodd's husband. Harvey Levin, when he asked her, has anybody from the medical board contacted you yet? And she said no.
No.
Yeah. No. I know.
Because somebody called her doctors out for overprescribing, right?
Yeah.
One
So
doctor called other doctors out.
Her deal started when she had her tonsils out and they gave her Vicodin. She's been in rehab 7 times, and she said her first rehab was like becoming a better drug addict university. She was like, it was like a class on how to be a better drug addict.
Yes.
And she
The
still
system is so broken that this is why people don't want to send their kids to rehab. Like if your kid's got a problem with weed, like you don't want to. People say don't send your kid to rehab for weed because they're going to come out with a PhD in heroin. Like that's the scariest thing in the world. The system is so broken. So you have that aspect of it. Then you have, once somebody turns 18, even if it's court ordered for them to go to rehab, they can sign themselves out.
Right.
This is another problem.
No, it's
And
crazy.
then you hear that the rehabs are sending people to NA and AA meetings to basically sell them drugs and get them hooked again so they can go back to rehab. Like,
they're
Well,
actually called body brokers.
They're not sending them to NA and AA. They're going to the AA and NA meetings to recruit people back. But NA and AA meetings are good places to go. So I don't want people to think like don't go there. Like they are good places to go.
Of course.
Yeah, like they're good places to go. It's these people that are sending recruiters, body brokers to get them back, to try and get them hooked again.
Yeah, I mean, this is sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Well,
sick. It is sick.
Listen, this is what I want to know, because a lot of these places, it's like $100,000 for a month, these celebrity rehabs.
Yeah.
So my question is, these body brokers, I wonder what their commission is on each catch.
Right.
Each person that they get.
I'm sure very high.
You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm sure it's not that high, to be honest with you. Even if it's 10%, like I'm sure it's
Right.
not that high.
Right.
It's because it's not that hard. You're going to a place where addicts go to get better, and you're offering them drugs to get them hooked again. Like you're preying on the weakest of the weakest of the weakest. It's like, come on, have a conscience. Like, how do you look at yourself in the mirror?
Yeah.
It is sad. It really is sad what goes on. And I'll be honest with you, like I've seen some of this stuff firsthand. I have a family member who's been in different treatment facilities for different things. And these treatment facilities are very expensive. They're very expensive. And a lot of times they just want to keep you there so that they can get the money.
Yeah.
You know, that's what their main goal is, not so much to get you better, so
Right.
that they can collect the
The
money.
paycheck.
And some of the people that are working in these places they're not licensed, you know, they're not licensed. They're babysitters themselves, like, you know, watching these patients. I know even, you know, what's his name? Jax said that the facility that he went to, Jax Taylor in California. Now, he said he left the facility to go work out with a nurse. I mean, I hope that that's the case, because a lot of these places, they leave the patients alone with not medical professionals, without nurses, with just people that are bodies to watch them,
Right.
who, you know, because I've had, like I said, family members at these places, and they're there for certain substances, and the people around them that are working there are doing those substances. So, you know, they're not getting better. They're seeing that, you know, you can work around the system and learning things that they never learned, you know, didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
That's why
And it's very sad.
it is sad.
Well, it's
What's her
sad,
name?
especially when somebody makes the commitment to try to get themselves better. Like, that's a huge,
Yes.
huge thing.
Yeah, well, it's like Kelly Osbourne was saying that when she was in rehab, she saw patients like demanding, you know, I have to have an Ambien so I go to sleep, or I'm having an anxiety attack, I have to have Valium. And then
Yeah.
they kind of like threaten the center, you know, well, I'll just sign out and then you'll lose your $100,000 for the month. So a lot of times
Right.
they do what you know what I
Right.
mean? So
They do what they want. More
they do what they
enabling.
want. Yeah.
More enabling.
Right.
Kelly Osbourne also said that she went to her first rehab at 19 years old, and that she remembers the first time that she met Matthew Perry. He walked up to her and he gave her a chip that said 3 minutes. He said, because she was having a tough time, she was really struggling. He said, you can get through 3 minutes, you can get through anything. And Kelly said it got her through the day, and then the next day, and the next day. And she'll never forget that. And at one point, she was going to 6 different doctors, 2 in LA, 2 in New York, and 2 in London, just to get what she needed. She would just call the doctor herself, get the refills. Harvey's like, well, you would go in and pick up the prescriptions yourself? She goes, yeah, I would go in and pick up the prescriptions myself.
She was what, 13, 14?
Well, she was 13 when she started doing, but yeah, she was a minor. She was a minor. Now, can you imagine? I mean, I can't even get Sudafed without showing my driver's license.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like, can you imagine?
It's that whole elite world of when you got money,
Yes.
you can
Yeah.
break all kinds of
Yeah.
rules. So,
Yeah.
did you guys see on the TMZ thing that Brandon Novak, he was a guy from Jackass.
Yes.
He said he would actually go into doctors' offices and like trade swag for drugs. So I
Yeah.
saw
Mhm.
he was on this, I watched this podcast. It was called Studio 22. And he was on it and he was talking about himself a little bit. So he started out as like by 16, he was like a full-blown heroin addict. And he was a skateboarder. And then he grew up with another guy who was a skateboarder who became famous. And then that guy kind of took him in. And so he was a millionaire 3 times over by the age of 23. And he never went
This guy Brandon Novak was just from the
from
Jackass
Jackass.
movies.
Yep. And
Eric really missed his calling with that.
he did.
Son of a bitch.
Yes, he did. So
He was the original Jackass jumping off roof.
yes, he was. So he was in rehab 13 times by the time he was 35. And like Perry, his addictions almost killed him. So it's just crazy town. And then we saw on the same TMZ Mike Sorrentino from Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Yes. he talked about his addiction, and he's just announced that he's opening his own recovery centers, and the first one is going to open up here in New Jersey, but they're going to be nationwide, and it's called Archangel, because he's Michael the Archangel. He's calling
Right.
himself
He's St. Michael now.
St. Michael. Yes.
It's
But
so
you know
funny.
what? He's done a lot of good things.
Yes.
Oh, he's done a lot of great things. He really, really has.
Yes, he really has.
I mean, talk about pay it forward. Like
Yes.
I couldn't say enough good things about him, honestly.
Also, Terry Dubrow was on that special.
Yeah.
And, he's a board certified plastic surgeon, and he knows about the lure of the celebrity, but he doesn't need to do that. Like, he has enough business. He has his own, clout, but, he corroborated what other people were saying. As a doctor, he sees this happen all the time in Hollywood because he is a doctor in Hollywood and he sees these parties. And who else was on? Dr. Drew Pinsky was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said it's the doctors that are fueling these addictions of these patients. They do what they want to do, and they know that they are not the only game in town. So they'll do whatever the patient wants, because if they don't do it, somebody else will.
Right.
And
That's what I'm saying.
And then they lose their clout and they lose.
right.
Yeah, like I said, they
Right.
want to be
Right.
the doctor du jour. They want to be the doctor that everybody comes to for their extras. Because it's a lot of money.
Right.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
No, it is a lot of money. It was the first time I heard this. Dr. Anne Klein is just as responsible for Michael Jackson's death as Dr. Conrad Murray. Dr. Klein shot him up with Demerol every day for the last 3 months of his life.
Like, who does
Every
that?
day.
Somebody. I don't care what
Not
you
Anne Klein, Arnie. I'm sorry, Dr. Arnie Klein.
I'm like, Aunt Klein, doesn't she make
No,
clothes?
Arnie. I'm sorry,
No.
it's dark. My
I
eyes.
know.
And Dr. Klein. So Debbie Rowe, the interesting thing is Debbie Rowe worked for Dr. Klein.
That's who it was. That it was Michael Jackson's ex-wife who worked for the doctor.
Well,
Yes.
they weren't married. She just had his baby.
She said I'm Michael Jackson's ex-wife.
Oh, really?
She said it.
I thought she
I'm
just
almost
had his
positive
baby.
they were married.
All right, whatever. I mean, I know she definitely had one of his babies, but yeah, whatever.
I
Yes.
agree. I honestly thought she said I'm Michael Jackson's ex-wife, or maybe they
Oh.
put it underneath her name.
Okay.
Just
So for 27 years, and she said she's the one who said she was very familiar with these medications and that she would go to the parties, and that he supplied the candy dish full of pills.
Yeah.
Dr. Arnie Klein is the one who, supplied them.
Yeah.
And, why hasn't anyone looked at him? Why is he still walking
Get arrested
around?
in all of this?
No.
You know what? I just assumed he was one of the doctors that got arrested in all of this.
No.
Well, all one can do is hope that the many, many, many other people involved in this will be brought into the light. That's all one can hope, because
Well, I'm
it's really
sorry, but
disgusting.
at this point, I'm sure there's a federal medical board. I'm sure, I know that each state has one, but I'm sure
Right.
there's a federal
I don't think
level.
so. I think the way and
Well-
I could be wrong, I think the way the medical board runs, there is a medical board, the AMA, the American Medical Association, right? But you know who's on the AMA? Other doctors.
Other doctors.
Right.
So doctors are policing doctors. So this
Yeah.
is what
See,
happens. This is what
and this
happens.
is a
And
pro-
there's no federal oversight. It's the AMA, which is
Yeah.
it's doctors policing doctors.
Yeah, no, it's time for the feds to get their shit together and put together a group of non-doctors to monitor this, and for sure do some investigation into the whole LA drug ring, because this is insane. I mean, it explains so much when you think about it. Like Brittany Murphy,
Britney Spears.
who was the other guy? He was so cute. Well, I'm saying people who just died and there was no explanation. Heath
Oh, yeah.
Ledger,
Mm-hmm.
like River Phoenix, like come
No,
on.
there's so many people who
Like
have.
we know,
yeah.
you
So-
know there were people enabling them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Doctors.
definitely.
So
When Mike is on this show, he talks about
No.
okay. When Mike was on, he started talking about how he started experimenting with opiates when he was 19 years old. a friend had introduced him to these yellow pills, and they were called bananas. And he got them on the street, and he fell in love with them. And that was 10 milligram Percocet. And that's where he fell in love with opiates. And that's where he said the devil started.
Mm-hmm.
The first season they cast him on Jersey Shore, he was just drinking and was proud of that. But by the second season, after they got the big raise, and he drank a little bit of his own Kool-Aid and said, wait until you see me now. And in season 5, it really came to a head when he was smuggling the drugs, which he talks about in his book, to Italy in his shoes. His sneakers. And he ran his head into a cement wall. And he was out. He was high. He was out of control. And then in 2013, he went to rehab, and he is 9 years clean and sober. Actually, that's 2013, so it's 2024. So now it's
11. I don't think
it's 11 years, right?
I don't know.
And he credits like his wife Lauren, who was, you know, his girlfriend,
College sweetheart,
and just, you know, wanting to get better. But again, he's the exception. Like, he went to rehab and got clean and sober, just like the guy who started it out, Nick Matthews, went.
But
and
Mike
worked.
Sorrentino, he went to rehab a couple of times, so he, you know, it wasn't like that guy. That guy really is an exception to the rule for sure.
But I believe Sorrentino
Mike
only
did a
went
couple of
maybe
stints.
like, yeah, but maybe only like 2 or 3. But I didn't realize that a lot of people who are addicts, there's multiple times to rehab, over.
Oh yeah, many
over
times.
And you wonder to yourself, is it really that their addiction is so bad, or is it that these rehab centers are really fucked up?
So obviously, you know, I lost 2 nephews to drug overdoses and a brother-in-law. When I say the system is broken because people can sign themselves out, that is what I'm talking about. My, you know, brother-in-law signed himself out a lot.
Yeah.
Went a lot.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, listen, I smoke cigarettes, and I'm trying not to buy them, and I'm trying not to smoke because I turned 50 and I know I got to get my shit together, but I just walked over and had one with my other friend who smokes. So it's a weak moment, right? It's a weak moment. So people in rehabs can have a weak moment and just sign themselves out and just change their whole
Trajectory.
path
Yep.
in one weak moment.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's court ordered, you can sign yourself out.
But the problem with it is, and, you know, what are you going to do? You can't hold them hostage.
No, I know.
You know, and I mean, you can put them in jail. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. But what are you putting them in jail for, right? If they're, you know, I don't know that part of it is the broken system, because what else can you do? You can't hold people against their will.
Yeah.
You can put them on a psych hold, but if they're not, you know, it's hard. It's very, very hard. It's very hard.
Never mind the fact that these places are so overfilled.
Mm-hmm.
They're so overfilled. Like, you know, sometimes you can't even get a bed. You're just
No,
you have
absolutely.
to wait. Like, you've gotten to the point where you actually make the choice to get yourself help, which is tremendous. And you can't even get in because there's no beds available.
That's crazy now.
But what they said about, what you said, Matthew Perry said about, you know, the drugs, the addiction, it was really about mental health.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
of
I'll
course.
be honest with you, I think every single one, I think every single addict or alcoholic has a co-occurring mental health issue. Now, that being said, I think that you can have a mental health issue and not have an addiction issue.
Yes.
But I do believe if you have an addiction issue, you most definitely also have a co-occurring mental health issue.
Yeah.
And that's where it is tricky, because trying to decipher what is the addiction and what is the mental health issue, and then how do you treat it? Because the ketamine is actually an effective treatment for certain mental health issues.
But it's
If it is
not
done
like it's not like FDA approved for that though,
No,
right?
it is. No, it
Oh,
absolutely
I thought
is.
they said that it was not in the
No, it
TMP thing.
absolutely is under medical supervision. There's a place on Route 9 in Howell that
Okay.
does it,
Okay.
but it has to be medically supervised. My problem with it is the fact that, like I said, mental health issues and addiction issues are co-occurring.
Yeah.
So if you prescribe ketamine for someone who has anxiety or depression, and they also happen to be an addict, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you happen to prescribe it for somebody who does not have this addiction problem, it does not have this addictive personality, then it may work for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you figure that out? And do the
Yeah, who has
doctors really
what?
care enough to figure it out? Because like I said, it is mainstream. Like there are places I could walk into a place right now with someone I love and I could probably get them this ketamine therapy. But
To what end?
it's not good. Right, exactly.
Right.
It's not always the right thing, and it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. All of these medications should be doctor supervised. To not have a licensed psychiatrist monitoring your medication, it's negligent.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But this is what happens.
It
There
happens.
are doctors in this area right here that are prescribing anxiety medicines, general practitioners prescribing anxiety medicine to people and not putting them under a psychiatrist's care to monitor it.
Which is
It's
not
happening.
cool. Yeah, no.
No,
So
it's
I just
not,
wanted to bring
because
this up. So
Well, you know what the other problem? Again,
on September 30th, okay, this Dr. P learns of Matthew Perry's interest in ketamine, and he contacts this other doctor, Dr. Chavez, to obtain the ketamine. So you go back and forth, and if you look at the timeline, they meet again on October 2nd. He gets more injections. October 4th, he gets more injections. And then October 6th, more injections. October 8th, they actually meet in the shopping plaza late at night, and this Dr. P injects Matthew Perry in a car. October 10th, again, they meet. And then pretty soon, his personal assistant, this Iwamasa, starts to inject him instead of the doctor. So then you go to October 20th. Matthew Perry receives his last legal ketamine treatment from his regular physician. And then October 25th, he's starting to get it from this Fleming person who is in cahoots with the ketamine queen. So now he's not only getting it from this Dr. Placencia, now he's getting it from this guy Fleming, who is the drug mule for...
And now the personal assistant's the one giving him the shots.
Right, and now the personal assistant is the one giving him the shots. Okay, so you go October 25th, October 26th, October 27th, October 28th. Now, the day that he dies, he gave him 3 injections in one day. So just to give you some reference, in 1 month, so from September 30th until October 28th when he dies, Matthew Perry spent $43,000 on ketamine. That's
crazy.
Crazy.
September 30th to so a month.
Yes.
He spent $43,000 on ketamine.
And I also heard
it's
somebody
crazy.
say that really the wholesale thing on a vial of ketamine is like $12. But they'll charge like $2,000.
Whatever they can.
For one vial.
Whatever they can.
Whatever they can. So it's just very sad. Very, very sad. Because in the end,
So
it was just
personal
somebody...
assistant on the 28th gives him injections,
Yeah.
leaves the house to run errands,
Yeah.
and leaves Matthew Perry in a jacuzzi, shot up with ketamine.
Yep. That's exactly what happens.
I mean, that's liability right there. Like, that's...
Oh, huge. That's what I'm saying.
It's very clear. You left him in a
Yeah, that's why I'm saying when you look at the timeline of what his personal assistant really did, it's so heavily negligent. It's just what a piece of shit that you would.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
somebody that you worked for all this time and
Right.
made a good living off of him, and that's how you would pay him back.
Right.
Whatever happened to just saying, you know what, I love you, Matt. I can't do this. I quit.
Right.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go somewhere. Let me
Yeah.
take you
Right.
to get
Let me
help.
call somebody. And even if he says no,
Or
you call somebody anyway. Like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Call his family.
Call his family.
Call his
Yeah.
family.
Who
Yeah.
does that? Who just keeps injecting somebody? Like, that's crazy.
It's crazy. It is crazy. One of the things I was going to say is another part of the problem, like you had mentioned, as these general practitioners are prescribing these drugs, there's not enough psychiatrists.
There's not.
No.
And
And it
that's,
takes months to get into one.
yes, that's another part of the problem is that there are
Yes.
not enough psychiatrists. There really
That's true.
isn't. It should be,
Especially for adolescents.
Yes.
especially for adolescents. And, it does take months to get
And
to
then
see them. And
when you do get to see them, and I have personal experience, again, myself also from family members, when you do get to see them or speak to them when they're, your telehealth visit, you're on the phone for 10 minutes. They're just re-prescribing your medication. How are you? Gone. That it's,
Do you think it's helping? Do you think,
yeah,
do you
but
think
they
the
not
dosage
like,
is okay?
not like a great big conversation, not like really giving a shit. They're reading like 3 questions off a piece of paper so they can hang up with you and get on the phone with the next person and re-up their script. Another very
yeah,
sick.
it's sad. But that being said, there are some very good psychiatrists out there
If you could
because
find them.
I have personal experience with very good ones and ones that are very bad. So, there are good ones out there. Same goes with therapists, to be quite honest with you. And
Absolutely.
that's the other thing is, mental health treatment is not just medication. Therapy and medication go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other.
Without the other. Yeah.
You can do therapy without medicine, but you can't do medicine without therapy. They
Correct.
have to go together.
Yeah.
They have to go together. And that general practitioner doesn't get that portion of it. So, I mean, I don't know. And I think that really it's very sad. It's an epidemic. Addiction is an epidemic and things need to change.
And this just proves, like, when they say addiction has no discrimination, this guy had more money than he probably ever knew what he'd have to do with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And don't think
it really doesn't matter your social class, your financial class. It hits you. It hits you.
Yeah.
And you could have the most loving family, or you could have a
or come from
an unfortunate upbringing. It doesn't matter.
No.
Right.
Because I'm sorry he felt, and I don't think his addiction had anything to do with the fact that he came from divorced parents and got shuffled back and forth. I don't, I think that a good therapist probably, if he was in therapy all those years, he probably, came to terms with that. And, it's nothing his parents did. They just didn't get along and they, separated and moved on. And I'm sure both of his families loved him very much. So I just think that if it's in you, it's in you. It's in your DNA. It's in your makeup.
Well, that's always, and the sad part about it is it nurture or nature? Is it environment or, biology? But the other thing is, it's the stigma with addiction, because even mental health illness, there's a stigma with it. If you tell someone you're an addict, they look at you one way. If you tell someone that you have cancer, they look at you another way. And guess what? They're both deadly. They are both deadly.
Yes.
And, to think that you can control it or to think that they can control it is just ignorance. It's ignorance.
Totally agree. It's not a choice. It's not what they're choosing. They're not choosing to live this way. No, they're not choosing to hurt their families. Of course not.
And themselves.
They wouldn't choose that.
I did look up, though, because I was very curious when I started doing all this research in regards to his assistant. I was like, oh, I wonder what was in Perry's will, because you think to yourself, well, why would somebody do? No, but no.
Of course.
He was not in it.
especially in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Good.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I just think, it's just really sad. We've seen all this stuff about Hollywood and fame, and I'll just be a nobody in Brick. I'm good. I'm good.
You got it. I'm with you.
We'll
We'll do our
want
little
to be
podcast
involved in
every
all
week.
that. Yeah, that no one listens to. It's great.
Yes, they do.
We
Okay.
have people listening now.
I know
We
it's a
do.
joke. It's a joke.
We have someone from Denmark who listens to us.
Oh, yay, Denmark.
Yes, and we
And
Hi.
appreciate the
comments.
feedback.
Yes.
Last year we could say that, but this
Yeah.
year I don't think we could say it anymore.
No, we're getting there. We're growing. We're growing.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Denmark. We love you.
Yeah.
We do.
Yes, he gives good feedback.
He
They
does.
give good feedback.
Very nice.
Yes.
All right. Well, when we're in Denmark, we'll
Yeah.
look him up.
All right. Sounds good.
Lori will be the first one to get to Denmark out of the three of us, by the way.
That's for sure.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Denmark, here I come. I'm ready.
I still haven't been out of the country once.
We got to fix that.
Yeah, we got to fix it.
Yeah, that'll
We
be
gotta get her
our
on a
first
plane.
big trip.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
You know
yeah.
what? That's going to be the first feat.
Yes.
I'll
The
tell
plane.
you that right now.
Plane will be the
Well, how
first.
about a big boat? Can we cruise you someplace?
Yeah. How about that?
Big fan of cruises either. We'll figure
Well,
something
how
out.
we get you in the country?
I don't know.
How do you know you're not a fan of cruises if you
I don't
never
know.
on one? How would you know?
I've seen Titanic.
Oh,
I
gosh.
don't love the ending. I'm a scaredy cat. I told you.
Oh, well,
I'm a scaredy
with
cat.
her, with her, Wendy.
All right. Do we have anything else to talk about this subject, or you think we're good?
I think
Listen,
we're
we
good.
just pray for anybody who suffers with addiction
Absolutely.
do.
and their family members, because
We do.
it is
It's a
not
lot.
easy going through it, and it's certainly not easy losing anybody. So
Yeah.
No. And we should, we'll put a link in our podcast for places you can go for help and numbers that you can call. So you're not alone. There are people out there that will help you. So just remember that.
Yep. Nothing wrong with reaching
Thank you
out.
for watching. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Thank you for watching and listening to We Wine Whenever. Until next time.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.